the great chamber of the Galactic Council was always alive with voices. From the high ceiling hung banners of hundreds of worlds, and the wide circle of seats was filled with leaders from every corner of known space. For centuries this hall had been a place of constant debate, of endless speeches and rival plans. Yet on this day, silence ruled. It began with a simple report from a small courier ship. The vessel arrived at the central station with a sealed packet, sent from the human colonies. When the seal was broken, the council expected a usual list of trade agreements or a message from Earth's diplomats. Instead, the message was short. It carried only one line: all diplomatic presence is ended. Humanity withdraws from council affairs. At first, many believed it was a mistake. A clerk had written it wrong, or perhaps a translator had failed. But soon more ships came in. From the northern colonies, from the southern mining stations, from Earth itself. Each message was the same. No greetings, no explanation, only that simple statement of withdrawal. The chamber filled with unease. The voice of speaker Narrow, a tall being of pale skin and 3 eyes, echoed across the hall. This cannot be real. Humans would not sever all ties so suddenly. There must be error. But then a smaller delegate, one who represented the trading guilds, rose to his feet. There is no error. My people confirm it. Every human embassy on our worlds has closed its doors. Their ambassadors boarded ships and left without farewell. Our channels to their networks are empty. A ripple of alarm spread through the council. For centuries humanity had been the bridge between species. They were known for their restless energy, their strange courage, their endless hunger for challenge. Some races saw them as reckless, others as brilliant, but none doubted their importance. To imagine the humans gone was like imagining the stars fading from the night. Counselor Varen, an elder from the ocean world of Theres, leaned forward with his long arms resting on the stone table. His voice was slow, heavy with worry. I have studied their history. Humans do not act without reason. If they turn away from us, then something deep moves beneath the surface. The chamber stirred. Some whispered that perhaps humanity had grown tired of endless debate, of being outvoted by species older and stronger. Others muttered that humans must have found a secret, some new power, and wished to hide it. One delegate shouted above the noise. Perhaps they prepare for war. It would not be the first time they stood against many foes. That word war hung in the air like a shadow. The memory of human fleets fighting with unmatched stubbornness was known across the galaxy. Even when outnumbered, they had endured. No empire had ever broken them fully. The speaker struck the table with his staff to calm the voices, but the unease could not be pushed away. A decision had to be made. Should they send ships to Earth and demand answers, or should they wait and watch in silence? The youngest delegates begged for patience. They said humans had strange habits, that perhaps this was only a phase, a test of loyalty. The older races were less hopeful. They had seen the look in human eyes, the steady fire when their pride was wounded. Outside the chamber, news spread fast. On every world that once welcomed humans, there was confusion. Markets that depended on human trade stood empty. Colonies that had shared workers and knowledge with humans were suddenly alone. No farewell gifts, no promises, no reasons, only locked doors and darkened embassies. On the homeworld of the Avaria, merchants gathered in streets, shouting that their future was ruined without human buyers. On the mountain world of Droll, soldiers whispered nervously, for they knew their border was safe only because human fleets had once guarded it. Everywhere, the silence of humanity was felt like a storm building just beyond sight. Back in the council chamber, a single thought united them all. Fear. Not fear of an attack, not yet, but fear of the unknown. Humanity had always spoken loudly, argued fiercely, and demanded to be heard. Now they spoke nothing at all. And in that silence, the galaxy trembled. The speaker of the council finally stood tall. His voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed doubt. We must send envoys. We must call to Earth again and again until they answer. We must not allow silence to grow into hostility. Yet even as he spoke, a chilling truth spread among the delegates. Humanity had not simply paused its voice. Humanity had chosen to turn away. And for the first time in generations, the Galactic Council felt small. The silence of humanity stretched into weeks, and then into months. No voice came from Earth, no ship carried a reply to the Council, no ambassador returned to explain. The halls of the Galactic Council, once full of debate, now carried the sound of worry more than policy. Every session turned to the same subject: why had the humans walked away? The chamber filled with speculation. Delegates from old and proud civilizations sat together, but even their wisdom gave no answer. Councillor Terran of the Aeron, a bird-like species with sharp eyes, rose first. They are preparing for war. It is the only reason a people would cut ties so fully. They do not wish us to see their plans. His feathers bristled as he spoke, his voice cutting across the chamber. Others shouted back at him. The Lothar representative, a calm thinker with skin like polished stone, shook his head. If they planned war, we would see their fleets massing. We would hear the thunder of their forges. But our scouts report only movement, not attack. They travel, yes, but they do not strike. That is not war. It is something else. The debate grew louder. Some spoke of human pride, of how often they clashed with the council in matters of policy. Many remembered the long arguments where human voices demanded equal standing with the elder species. Perhaps, they said, the humans had grown tired of being dismissed. Councillor Varon of Theres, who had studied human history, leaned forward. They are not like us. When we lose patience, we argue. When they lose patience, they act. If they believe we treat them as lesser, they will walk away and force us to see their worth. His long fingers tapped the stone table as he spoke, the sound echoing like a quiet drum beat. A nervous delegate from the border colonies spoke next. If they no longer guard our edges, then who will protect us from the raiders beyond the rim? Their fleets were our shield. If they pull back, we stand exposed. This fear spread quickly. The truth was that human fleets had been everywhere: fast patrol ships on the outer borders, supply convoys that crossed dangerous zones, soldiers who had stood side by side with other races during crisis. With humanity gone, gaps appeared like cracks in old stone. Merchants worried first. Human traders were bold, daring to cross routes others avoided. Without them, markets slowed. Goods that once flowed freely now stalled. Prices rose. Anger grew. Scientists worried next. Human engineers often brought strange ideas, untested but clever. Without them, projects that once promised great change began to falter. Finally, even the military felt fear. Many remembered how humans had fought in past wars not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to surrender. Their allies had grown used to that stubborn shield. Now that shield was gone. The council chamber grew divided. One half demanded action. Send ships to Earth. Demand they return. If they resist, force them to speak. The other half shook with dread. If we force them, they will break away forever. We must wait. We must show patience. The speaker tried to calm both sides. We cannot act in haste. Humanity is proud, but also wounded easily by insult. If we press too hard, we may drive them further away. If we wait too long, they may vanish completely. His staff struck the floor, but it did little to silence the storm of voices. Outside the chamber, the people of the galaxy whispered as well. In crowded markets, in quiet temples, in military barracks, the same questions were asked. Why had humanity turned its back? Did they discover something beyond the edge of the stars? Did they prepare to rise above the council? Did they believe they no longer needed anyone? A rumor spread among the smaller worlds. Some claimed humans had discovered ancient technology, hidden deep in forgotten systems. Others believed humans had found new allies outside the known galaxy. Each rumor grew until even the most careful scholars began to wonder. Yet no one had proof. Only silence. On the second month, scouts brought reports. Human fleets were seen again, moving across dark sectors. They did not speak, they did not fight, but their movements were clear. Large cargo ships carried unknown equipment. Colonies that once welcomed visitors now guarded their skies with warning signals. This only fed the fire of speculation. The council chamber burned with arguments. One group shouted that humans were arming themselves for conquest. Another group claimed they were retreating to protect something precious. Neither side could be proven right. At the end of the long session, the speaker spoke softly, his voice heavy with the weight of uncertainty. We do not fear what we know. We fear what we cannot see. Humanity hides itself from us, and in that shadow we see our own weakness. The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to admit the truth, but all felt it. The galaxy had grown used to the presence of humanity, and now, without it, the galaxy was smaller, weaker, and unsure of itself. And so the speculation grew, rising like a storm cloud, dark and heavy, waiting to break. The silence of humanity was unsettling enough, but soon the council realized something even stranger. Though embassies were closed and voices quiet, human fleets were not still. They were moving, always moving, in patterns that no one understood. Reports came first from the edge colonies. A scout ship belonging to the Evora passed through an unclaimed system and caught sight of a human convoy. The ships were large, heavy freighters escorted by sleek warships. The convoy did not attack, but when hailed, it gave no reply. It changed course and disappeared into deep space. The Evora scout followed for a short while, but the humans moved with such precision that the small vessel dared not press closer. Within weeks, more sightings appeared. Traders spoke of human transports carrying strange machines, their cargo holds full yet never stopping to unload at any known port. Patrols saw human fleets enter forgotten regions, places marked as barren or useless. What were they seeking there in the council chamber? Fear deepened. Councillor Terran of the Aeron spread his wings in frustration. They hide their movements. This is proof they prepare for conflict. No peaceful nation would cloak its path so carefully. His voice was sharp, but many nodded, for secrecy was indeed troubling. Yet Councillor Varon of Theres shook his head. His long fingers traced lines on a star map projected in the chamber. Look here. They do not circle our worlds. They move outward, away from us. They seek something beyond. This is not a strike, it is exploration or perhaps relocation. Relocation. That word struck like a stone in water, rippling through the delegates. Could humanity be leaving the council's sphere entirely? Could they be building something far away, safe from the eyes of others to test the truth, the council sent more observers. Quiet probes entered human space, watching carefully. What they found only brought more questions. Human colonies that once opened their ports to visitors now denied entry. Where once ships landed freely, now defense grids stood ready, scanning every arrival. Civilian stations that had once welcomed trade now turned away outsiders with polite but firm warnings. It was not aggression, but it was a barrier. The humans were building walls around themselves. Merchants grumbled in anger. They cut us off from goods. They deny us the markets we helped them build. But beneath the anger was fear, for the merchants knew that humans had grown resourceful enough to supply themselves. Perhaps they no longer needed trade at all. Meanwhile, whispers grew in the outer colonies. A drill patrol reported seeing enormous structures rising in orbit around a human mining world. Towers of metal connected by beams of light, half-built but vast in scale. A fortress, some claimed. A weapon, others guessed. But no one knew for certain. The Speaker of the Council called for calm. We must not assume. Humanity is clever, but also unpredictable. We must gather facts before judgment. Yet facts were few. The humans left only traces, ships moving through quiet systems, signals sent only to their own kind, stations closing their gates, factories working at all hours. They did not explain. They did not ask permission. They simply acted, and the galaxy was left to wonder. In the private chambers of the council, fear turned into suspicion. Some whispered that humanity had discovered something ancient, perhaps a relic of lost civilizations. Others believed they were preparing to build a new alliance outside the council. A few even thought the humans had found a way to stand entirely alone, without the need of any other race. These whispers became louder each day, and the panic spread beyond the chamber walls. Citizens across the stars looked at the sky and asked the same question: what are the humans doing in their silence? One evening, a report came from a neutral observer station near the rim. A massive human fleet had passed by dozens of ships, moving in formation, silent and steady. At the heart of the fleet was a vessel larger than any the observers had ever recorded. It was not a warship, yet it carried a presence of power. Some called it a command ship, others a mobile city. The fleet ignored the observers and vanished into the dark. This sighting broke the last hopes of peace for many in the council. Councillor Terran stood again, his feathers flaring. You see now. They build new power in secret. They will return with force, and we will be unready. We must act before it is too late. But Varen, calm and steady, spoke against him. If they wished conquest, they would not leave. They would already be here, striking. No. This is something deeper. They move away because they no longer see us as vital. That truth is harder to face than war. The chamber erupted in arguments once more. Voices rose, wings flared, claws struck tables, and tendrils curled in fear. Every species wanted an answer, but none had one. In the end, only the silence of humanity remained. Ships moved like shadows across the stars, leaving behind only questions. And in those unanswered questions, the galaxy began to see a new reality. Humanity was no longer standing at their side. Humanity was walking its own path. And no one knew where that path would lead. The Galactic Council chamber had seen many arguments in its long history, but none as fierce as those that filled it after the silence of humanity. What began as whispers had grown into storms. Every meeting now was consumed by one subject: what should be done about the humans? Delegates filled the great circle of seats, their voices rising and clashing like waves in a storm. Maps of star systems floated above the chamber, glowing blue and red as scouts reported new human movements. One group of ships had been seen near a lifeless nebula. Another had crossed through an abandoned mining sector. Each report was the same. The humans moved with purpose, but never explained why. Counselor Terran of the Aeron stood once again, wings spread wide to command attention. His sharp voice cut through the noise. We have been blind for too long. They close their embassies, they hide their colonies, they build in secret, and now their fleets roam like predators. Do you not see they prepare for war? We must unite our forces before it is too late. Many nodded at his words, fear burning in their eyes. The Aeron were not alone in believing that humanity's silence was the silence before a strike. But Counselor Varen of Theres rose slowly, his tall form casting a shadow across the glowing maps. His voice was calm, yet carried a weight that silenced some of the shouts. You are quick to call for war, Terran, but answer this. Where is their aggression? Have they attacked our ships? No. Have they seized our colonies? No. They move, yes, but not toward us. They move away. They are not sharpening blades against us. They are building a wall between themselves and us. This is not conquest. It is separation. The chamber erupted again. Some shouted in agreement with Varen, others hissed at him as blind and naive. A representative of the border colonies, small and pale, raised his trembling voice. If they turn their backs fully, what becomes of us? We relied on human patrols to keep raiders away. Without them, we are exposed. Their silence is not only a wound of pride, it is danger to our lives. This plea shook the chamber. For years, humans had willingly patrolled dangerous routes, often losing ships in the process. They had stood against raiders with little reward but respect. Now those borders felt open, unguarded, and weak. A delegate from the merchant guilds added fuel to the fire. And our trade dies with them. Human ships crossed paths no one else dared. They linked markets across the stars. Without them, we face ruin. Are we to starve while they hoard their wealth in secret? Accusations filled the air. Some claimed the humans sought to cripple the council's strength by pulling away. Others argued it was their right to leave if they chose. The speaker struck the floor with his staff again and again, but the voices refused to fall silent. At last, the speaker himself spoke, his voice weary. We are divided. Half of you call for fleets to watch their every move. Half of you beg for patience and time. But hear me. If we act with fear, we may create the very war we dread. If we wait too long, we may find them gone forever. Still, the chamber could not find unity. The fear of humanity's silence had split the council in two. Some prepared proposals for new alliances without humans. Others secretly drew plans to build larger armies. Still others sent spies, hoping to learn the truth by stealth. Yet nothing brought peace of mind. Each day brought new rumors. A human convoy carrying massive engines. A colony building vast towers of unknown purpose. A fleet traveling deeper into unexplored space. Every rumor was a stone thrown into a still pond, and each ripple carried panic. In private halls, friendships between delegates broke apart. Old allies began to doubt one another, suspecting that someone might be holding human secrets. For the first time in centuries, the council chamber felt fragile, as if it could collapse under the weight of suspicion. Outside, the galaxy felt the same. Citizens on many worlds began to speak openly of their fear. What if the humans never return? What if they come back as conquerors? What if they have already found something greater than all of us? Markets shook. Armies trained harder. Priests prayed to their gods for protection. All the while, the humans gave no answer. They did not send even a single message to explain. And so the council divided further with every passing day. One half prepared for defense, sharpening their blades in fear. The other half pleaded for calm, hoping humanity's silence would one day break into words instead of war. But in that division lay a truth that no one wished to say aloud. Humanity had not only withdrawn from the council. Their absence was tearing the council itself apart. The speaker, staring into the star maps long after the chamber emptied, whispered to himself a thought no one else dared share. Perhaps this is their test. Perhaps they wish to see if we can stand without them. And if we fail, perhaps we prove their silence was wise. The Galactic Council had reached its breaking point. Every meeting ended in arguments, every delegate carried suspicion in their voice, and every report of human movement stirred more unrest. Yet answers never came. Humanity remained silent, their embassies dark, their ports closed, their fleets watchful. Then, one quiet night cycle on the central station, a signal was caught. It was faint, drifting across the edge of space, almost like a whisper. A listening post operated by the chiral species detected it first. At once they sent it to the council. The chamber filled with tension as the message was played. The voice was human. It was not directed at the council, nor at any other species. It was a broadcast between human colonies. The language was clear, calm, and steady, but the words carried weight like stone. We no longer seek to be judged by others. We will not sit in halls where our voices are dismissed. We will build our own path, by our own hands. When the stars see us as equals, then we will speak again. Until then, we stand alone. The chamber fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. The words rang in every mind. This was not war. This was not conquest. It was pride. Councillor Varon of Theres, who had long studied human nature, lowered his eyes and spoke softly. They do not hate us. They do not wish to destroy us. They only wish to stand without bending. This is not silence for battle. This is silence for dignity. But not all agreed. Councillor Terran of the Aeron leapt to his feet, feathers bristling with unease. Do you not hear their threat? They will speak again only when we bow to their demand of equality. They challenge our authority. They refuse our order. This is rebellion. Others shook their heads. Some wept openly, for they understood the message differently. The humans were not rebels, they were builders. They had grown weary of being treated as reckless, as young, as lesser. They had chosen to step away rather than continue in frustration. The council was thrown into greater conflict than before. Some delegates argued that humanity's demand was too great. If we give them equal standing, every younger race will demand the same. The council will collapse. Others argued that the council was already collapsing without them. Trade slowed, borders weakened, and unity was fading. The absence of humanity was like a wound that refused to heal. Meanwhile, beyond the chamber, the words of the intercepted message spread quickly across the galaxy. On markets, in schools, in soldiers' barracks, beings repeated the human vow, we stand alone until we are seen as equals. On some worlds, the message was admired. Citizens whispered that the humans were brave, daring to demand respect from the elder species. On other worlds, the message was feared, for it carried the image of a people who would never yield, not even to the combined voices of the council. The council tried to hide the recording, but it was impossible. Information traveled too fast. Within weeks, every world in the council's reach had heard it. Every being knew that the humans had not vanished. They had not fallen into silence without reason. They had chosen silence, to teach a lesson. Inside the chamber, the speaker struck his staff and tried to guide the debate. We must not let pride blind us. Humanity has spoken. They will not return unless we accept them as equals. We must ask ourselves what matters more, our pride, or our survival. But the chamber had no answer. Old empires with long histories could not imagine sharing equal ground with a younger race. Yet they also could not ignore the truth that their strength was already fading without human presence. As the delegates shouted once more, the speaker felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The message from the shadows had revealed more than human intent. It had revealed the weakness of the council itself. Without humanity, the council could not agree on anything. In quiet corners, some leaders began to plot. They thought perhaps it was wiser to treat with the humans in secret, to gain their favor before others did. Others whispered of building fleets to match humanity's growing strength. Suspicion and ambition grew like fire in dry fields. Yet through it all, the words of the human message lingered. They were not spoken with anger. They were not shouted in threat. They were calm, but final. We stand alone until we are seen as equals. It was not a declaration of war. It was a declaration of worth. And in that worth, the galaxy trembled. The human message had shaken the council, but it was only the beginning. The silence that followed created a ripple across the galaxy. Where humans had once been present, their absence now left gaps in every system, every trade route, and every alliance. In the outer colonies, fear grew quickly. Merchants who once relied on human trade ships found their goods stuck in distant ports. The price of food and metals rose sharply, causing unrest among the citizens. Farmers who had exported crops to human colonies now saw no buyers. Starships loaded with resources floated in space, waiting for routes that were no longer open. On border worlds, soldiers spoke nervously. Human fleets had been the shield against raiders, pirates, and unknown threats beyond the Council's watch. Now, without their patrols, the borders felt exposed. Military leaders calculated how quickly raiders could strike, and some whispered that the humans had always been the true guardians of peace. Even the Council itself began to falter. Delegates argued more fiercely than ever before. Some wanted to prepare fleets to confront humanity, to force them back into the Council's control. Others warned that this would only drive them further away. Every decision seemed wrong, and each delay deepened the Council's anxiety. Fear spread in every corner of space. Scholars debated human capabilities and ambitions. Scientists wondered what new technologies humans might have developed in secret. Rumors grew of massive ships, advanced weapons, and colonies built in places no one had ever seen. Each story, whether true or false, fueled panic. On planets far from Earth, children asked their teachers why humans were no longer visiting. Citizens questioned their leaders about safety and trade. Even temples and places of learning echoed with uncertainty. The humans, once seen as partners, were now distant and unknowable. The Speaker of the Council convened an emergency session. His voice, heavy with concern, filled the chamber. We cannot pretend that all is well. Humanity has chosen its own path. They will not return unless we understand them and treat them as equals. Yet our people fear that we cannot survive without them. Councillor Terran of the Aeron shook his head in disbelief. We cannot rely on humans forever. Their silence is dangerous. They build power in the shadows, and we do nothing. What if their intentions change? What if they see weakness and strike? Varen of Theres remained calm, his eyes steady. You speak as if they are preparing for war. They are not. They move to protect themselves and demand respect. The fear we feel is our own. It grows because we depend too much on their presence. Outside the chamber, news of human activity continued to arrive. Scouts reported fleets traveling to unexplored regions. Colonies sent supplies and advanced machinery to unknown locations. Mining operations on distant planets expanded rapidly. Humanity was not idle. They were growing stronger, building quietly, with purpose. Some worlds panicked. Economies slowed, trade routes failed, and military patrols struggled to fill the gaps left by human absence. Citizens whispered that perhaps the galaxy had underestimated humans all along. Perhaps the species that seemed young and reckless had been holding everything together without anyone realizing it. On one industrial world, workers refused to continue construction projects without human engineers. They always knew how to make things faster, better, safer, one supervisor said. Without them, we can only guess. In the council, suspicion grew as well. Some leaders feared that human silence masked secret alliances beyond known space. Others imagined that humans had discovered technologies that would make them untouchable. Every rumor added weight to the council's fear, spiraling into a storm of doubt and distrust. Yet through all this chaos, humans did not communicate. They sent no messages of reassurance, no warnings, no threats. Their fleets continued to move silently, their colonies worked diligently, and their presence remained distant yet powerful. It was this quiet strength that terrified the council the most. Humans had proven, over centuries, that they could survive the impossible, adapt to any environment, and overcome threats far greater than themselves. Now, standing apart, they were more unpredictable than ever. The speaker watched the star maps, showing human movements across the galaxy. We thought we understood them. We thought we knew their limits. But now they stand apart, and we realize we may have depended too much on them. Humanity's absence is a mirror, showing us our own weakness. And so, the spiral of fear tightened. The council, the colonies, and even distant worlds began to act more out of worry than reason. They built defenses, hoarded resources, and spread rumors to gain advantage. Humanity, though silent, had become the center of the galaxy's anxiety, shaping its politics and economies without a word. Yet somewhere, in the midst of this fear, humans continued their work. They did not respond, they did not interfere, they simply moved forward. And in their silence, they showed one undeniable truth: humanity could survive and thrive, even without the galaxy watching, even without the Council's guidance, even in complete solitude. The galaxy feared them. But they had already proven that they did not need it. The silence of humanity had lasted long enough for the galaxy to tremble. The Council was divided, economies strained, and borders unguarded. Yet, for all the fear, humanity moved with purpose, building quietly in the shadows, preparing their own future. Then, without warning, a single human envoy appeared at the heart of the Council. The ship arrived calmly, slipping through patrols with ease, its design unfamiliar but elegant. Its presence alone drew every delegate to the chamber, curiosity and caution flashing in equal measure. The humans did not bow. They did not speak immediately. They simply stood, their posture steady, their faces clear. They carried no weapons openly, though the sheer size of their vessel suggested power beyond imagination. The speaker rose, his staff tapping lightly on the floor. You have returned. After silence that has shaken the galaxy, you come before us. A human leader stepped forward, their voice calm yet firm. We come not to beg, and we come not to demand. We come to speak as equals, as we always wished. The galaxy has seen our absence. It has felt our silence. And now, it must choose whether it will meet us in honesty or continue to misunderstand us. The council listened, stunned by the clarity and strength of the words. These were not threats. These were not pleas. This was the statement of a people who had proven that they could stand alone and now demanded recognition of their worth. Councillor Terran of the Aeron struggled to find words. Why leave us so long? Why show us fear without reason? The human envoy's eyes held calm fire. Because only through absence could the galaxy understand that we are not tools or pawns. We build, we protect, we trade, and we fight, but always on our own terms. Silence was our answer until the galaxy could see us for what we are. Whispers filled the chamber. Some delegates nodded in understanding. Others shifted uneasily. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had survived, grown, and thrived while the council panicked. They had shown that independence was not weakness, but strength. Councillor Varon of Theres spoke gently, they have proven what we could not see. Strength is not only in numbers, fleets, or walls. Strength is in the will to stand firm, in the courage to act without approval. The humans continued, their voice calm and unwavering. We return to dialogue not because we must. We return because we choose. Treat us as equals, and we will work together. Attempt to command us, and you will find that we have learned to move alone. The council faced a choice. For years, they had taken humanity for granted, relied on them for protection, trade, and ingenuity. Yet now, the humans demanded respect, not for power, but for their right to exist and act freely. Some delegates, still proud and cautious, feared this change. They whispered that humans might leave again, stronger than ever, if the council failed to act with fairness. Others saw the opportunity. They realized that cooperation on equal terms could bring not fear, but growth. The speaker addressed the chamber once more, his voice steady. We have witnessed the cost of underestimating a people. We have seen the galaxy tremble in their absence. And now, we see that they do not need us to survive. The choice is ours. Respect them, or face the consequences of our arrogance. Silence followed, thick and heavy. For the first time, the council truly understood the lesson humanity had delivered. They had not sought chaos. They had not desired war. They had only demanded recognition. One by one, delegates nodded. Trade agreements were rewritten. Border patrols were reorganized with human input. New projects began, guided not by control, but by collaboration. The council had learned humility. The humans, standing calm and steady, waited only long enough to see acknowledgement. Then, without boast or ceremony, they returned to their work, their fleets once again moving through the stars, their colonies active and productive, their presence felt without dominance. And in that return, the galaxy saw a truth it could not ignore. Humanity was not only resilient. Humanity was a force of independence, ingenuity, and courage. They had proven that a species could thrive on its own, yet choose cooperation over conquest. The council had faced the cost of fear, the weight of reliance, and the power of pride. And through it all, humans had reminded every species of a lesson long forgotten. Strength came not only from fleets, armies, or technology, but from the courage to stand firm, to act with integrity, and to demand the respect they had earned. In the end, the choice rested with the council. They had learned to see humanity as equals. And as humans moved once more among the stars, calm yet unstoppable, the galaxy understood that some beings were truly extraordinary. Humanity had returned. Not to beg. Not to demand. But to remind the galaxy that they could thrive alone, yet still choose unity. The Council would never forget.